Protesters breached the security fencing at the Democratic National Convention on August 19th, despite the Democrats' attempts to secure the event. It's ironic considering how often Democrats have whipped up protests over the years, and now they're dealing with the backlash right at their own event. The walls and fences they put up, which they've criticized in the past, turned out to be a necessity when dealing with their own radical protesters. I guess the defund the police movement was only meant for the plebs. When it comes to protecting politicians, those fences and cops sure come in handy. As the event unfolded, protesters were seen working on getting through the first layer of fencing, pushing over the barriers while chanting, "Biden-Harris, you can't hide." And yet, if the past few years are any indication, hiding is all they've been good at. Their attempts to push through were relentless, showing the kind of chaos and frustration simmering just below the surface. The Democrats might have been better prepared, as this situation seemed like a repeat of the 1968 DNC, where unrest and violence also marred the event. People are already wondering where the National Guard is because it seems like they might need them soon. The scene got more intense as the police arrived to control the situation. Radicals began tossing objects, including signs. One particularly memorable moment involved a man complaining about being detained by the police. He claimed they were rough with him, causing him to have an accident in his pants. The protesters wanted to make an impact, but I don't think leaving skid marks on Michigan Avenue is what they were aiming for. Several arrests were made as the situation continued to escalate. Reports emerged that the police might resort to using tear gas after the protesters got more violent. The Democrats wanted a peaceful convention but forgot you can't put out a fire with gasoline. This type of scene is a far cry from the generally joyful and organized atmosphere seen at the Republican National Convention. The way things are going, it doesn't look like the DNC is going to have a smooth ride. The question remains if the Democrats are going to get things under control, or if this event is just the start of a much larger issue that will haunt them as the convention continues. The DNC without chaos would be like a Biden speech without gaffes. Unthinkable. There's a sense of irony in the fact that Democrats who have criticized walls and fences in the past were forced to rely on them to keep protesters at bay. Democrats might want to focus on controlling their own convention before telling everyone else how to run the country. The protesters breaking through that first fence and trying to push over the second shows just how determined they were to get their message across. And while the police managed to prevent a full breach, the tensions were high, and it was clear that the situation could have spiraled even further out of control if not for the quick response. The comparison to the 1968 DNC isn't just about the violent protests. It's about the Democrats possibly facing the same kind of internal turmoil and public dissent that they did back then. This incident could be a sign of things to come, as people are not just unhappy, but are willing to take action to show their discontent. Whether the Democrats will be able to maintain control over their own convention and prevent further incidents remains to be seen, but they might be in for a rough ride. This situation is a reminder of how quickly things can turn when the public feels unheard and decides to take matters into their own hands. Who knew the DNC would be such a crapshoot, literally?
Middle MAGA.